Hey, good afternoon. Hello, I'm Brian Manning. This is the Asylum Answer Show where I answer your questions about winning asylum in the United States. Whatever questions you have about asylum, I'm going to answer them. I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now as a lawyer, well, my law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Listen, we're based in Texas, but we help people all over the country. It doesn't matter where you live. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Say hello. Tell me where you're at. Tell me what city you're in. Always love to hear where you guys are at. And then I'm going to answer your questions after I say a few words about this. Listen, here's a question that I get all the time. So like, Brian, what's like the best asylum case? Is there like a certain kind of case that is just like the strongest asylum case out there? And okay, first of all, before I'm going to tell you, I'm going to answer that with the answer is yeah, pretty much. There is there's a common kind of case that is very, very strong. People still lose. I'll tell you why in a second. But there is a certain kind of case that is very strong. But before I say that, let me just remind you, because it's related, that remember, to win asylum, it's not enough just to show that you're at risk of being persecuted. You got to convince the officer of a lot more than that. The other key component is you got to convince the asylum officer that the persecution is motivated by the fact that you, the asylum seeker, possess one of the 5 protected characteristics under U.S. asylum law. Those are your race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or something called membership in a particular social group. All right. So you got to show that that's what's causing the bad guys, the persecutors, to want to harm you. It's one of those 5 things. And that's kind of tricky. And that's where most cases are probably lost, is that the asylum seeker does not convince the officer that that's the reason. So like, not historically, asylum rates have always been pretty low. They've gotten even lower. One of the main reasons is that a lot of times the officer will say, well, yeah, I believe you, right? That some people want to harm you, that they've threatened you and that they're going to do bad things to you. Maybe they've even harmed you in the past, but they're not convinced that it's because of one of those 5 things. If it's just like money, like if the officer is convinced, like, look, these guys just want to harm you because they want your money. They're trying to get you to pay them off. It's just extortion. It's just not motivated by one of those 5 protected grounds. Well, then that will not win you asylum, unfortunately. Okay, so you got to show that the persecution is on account of, that's what the law says. The persecution has to be on account of one of the 5 protected grounds that you possess or the bad guys think you possess. All right, but now let's go back and answer the question. Say hello. Oh, hello there. Good to see you. Let's go back and answer the question of, what's the best asylum case? So I would say that among cases that are a case type that's like pretty common, a really, really strong case is people from Iran who come to the United States and they convert to Christianity. All right. These cases, Iranian conversion cases, or any other religion, like they sometimes convert to other religions, or even if they don't convert to a different religion, if they renounce Islam or give up Islam and say, I'm no longer a Muslim, I reject it, those cases are very strong. Why? Because the country conditions information, which is to say all the reports out there about what's going on in Iran, like from the U.S. government, like from our State Department, from other countries' governments, just in the news and the press, all that reporting backs up the argument that, yeah, look, if you've done that, you're at risk. There's a really good chance that they will, in fact, harm you. Okay. So because of that, because the country conditions information supports that, yeah, someone in this position is really at risk, it's a strong case. However, people lose this case. People do lose this case. Listen, there's a lot of asylum officers out there that are just anti-immigrant, that are just looking for an excuse to deny you. Okay. And they will play little word games with you. They will try to get you to mess up, try to get you to commit inconsistencies. So they'll have an excuse to deny you. And some of them are just straight up anti-immigrant. And there's a lot of bias against people from like the Middle East, And lots of places, Middle East, South Asia, and Africa. I would say all of those. There's a huge bias against those three regions. So what I'm saying is the mere fact that it sounds like you've got a pretty good case on paper, like if you're an Iranian who converted from Islam to another religion, you should have a strong case. You should win based just on those facts, but it doesn't always happen. All right. You got to do this carefully. You've got to prepare your case really well on paper. You've got to prepare for it intensively so that you can do a good job at your interview and minimize your risks for having inconsistencies in your testimony. And inconsistency, right? That's like when they ask you, oh, on what date did this thing happen? And you say X, and they ask you about it an hour later in the interview and you say, oh, it happened on Y. The dates don't match up. That's an example of an inconsistency. You can have inconsistencies between things that you say at your interview, or inconsistencies between things that you say at your interview and what's in your written materials, like your asylum application, your declaration, your evidence. So there's multiple ways for you to have inconsistencies, and asylum officers love this. If they want to deny someone and they can't do it like legitimately, like there's not a really good legit reason to be able to deny someone, this is what they go to. This is the go-to reason for denying people. This inconsistencies thing. Okay. So listen, that's a really good case. There's several other kinds of cases that are pretty common that are really good as well. All right, but let's go. Say hello in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. Love to see where you guys are at. I want to start with TikTok for our questions this afternoon. This early afternoon. What do we got on TikTok? Actually, it's late afternoon for me. Nice. Very nice. Deepu, thank you. Deepus, I like your work. Thank you. I appreciate it. Bunny Store USA says, what's the difference between the Second Circuit and Third Circuit? Good question. So the question is, what are these circuit courts that you keep hearing about in the context of immigration? What does it mean for your asylum case? Well, listen, this has to do with the way that U.S. law works. And it's a little bit tricky, but courts of appeals have different ways of interpreting the asylum laws and all laws. And the way that a circuit court interprets a certain law is binding on USCIS and the immigration courts that are in their district, that are sort of covered by the jurisdiction of a given, what's called a circuit court. It's a federal court of appeals. And some of them are better than others for asylum seekers, for immigrants, like the Ninth Circuit out in like California, that covers a few states out there. It's good for asylum seekers. They have good interpretations. Like in Texas, where I am, the Fifth Circuit, not good. So you don't have to worry about it, but it's not going to help you to sort of frame your case in terms of, worrying about this circuit thing. So you don't really need to worry about it, except I would say that, if you're willing to move to an asylum office or where an immigration court would be hearing your case that has a higher approval rate, the fact that they're in another circuit might be a little bit helpful for you. But usually those differences in circuit law don't really actually make a difference. Okay. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about the circuits. All right. It's beyond your control and it usually doesn't make a big difference. So don't worry about that. Okay. All right. Let us go to, I want to go over to YouTube and see what's going on YouTube. Badru says hello from Massachusetts. Hello, Badru. We've got... so family, Mayorga Morales says, hello, if the asylum officer doesn't know about Mandamus, how do they know that it's time to make a decision after the interview is done? Good question. I want to address that. So the question is this. If the asylum officer that does the interview in your case at USCIS, after you've sued at a Mandamus lawsuit to get the interview, if that asylum officer doesn't even know that you've sued, well, how do they know that they need to really hurry up and get the decision out fast? So here's the thing. Sometimes they don't know. When I was an asylum officer with USCIS, we didn't know that someone had sued, that the interview had been scheduled as a result of a Mandamus lawsuit. That kind of information just didn't go in the case file. So if that's the case, the question is like, okay, well then how do they know that they need to like hurry and make the decision real fast? Well, their supervisor can just pressure them. Their supervisor can be, hey, this particular case, just get it done quickly. They might tell them, they might know. But as I've said many times, even if they do know that you sued to get your interview, I truly believe it is not going to hurt your case. It's understandable. It's reasonable. Also, they just can't use it against you. It's not a negative factor they can point to justify a denial. So don't worry about it. All right. Don't worry about it. It's all good. If you've been waiting for your asylum interview for multiple years and you're sick of it, you should sue the government. You should sue the government to force them to give you your asylum interview. You deserve it. The government is obliged. They're supposed to act in a reasonable time on any immigration application. And when they don't do that, you can sue them in a mandamus lawsuit in a federal court to make them do their job, to make them give you your interview. And I recommend that you do that. We've been doing it a ton lately in my law firm, and it works. It works really, really, really well. Our clients are loving it, to be honest with you, because it works. All right. So listen, if you want to talk with us, I want you to go over to winasylum.com. That webpage is winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. That's where you can schedule an asylum strategy session with one of our asylum professionals. All right. Someone who is going to analyze your case, see what's going on, and tell you whether we think that we can help you. If we think that we can help you, we're going to tell you how. We're going to set forth like concretely exactly what steps we're going to take to give you the best possible chance of securing your future in America through asylum. That's what we do every day. That's what we love to do. Cogbo says, how can I reach out to you for my case on TikTok? That's exactly how you do it. Is you go to the website, go to the URL, winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. That's how you can reach out to us to schedule your consultation. You schedule online. We'll talk you'll talk with someone from my team, one of my asylum professionals, either by telephone or video conference. Video conference is better. Choose that. Choose video conference. We get to know each other better. It's a better atmosphere. It's better for us to understand your case and start to build that relationship. All right. So listen, winasylum.com is the best way to do this. The other way is call us, 713-909-0401, 713-909-0401. That's where you can call us to schedule this. All right. All right. Let us go back to the TikTok. Jabron Jaral says, good to see you from Oklahoma. Did I tell you this? Jabral, you were on here last time. Didn't we have this conversation a few days ago where I said, hey, I'm from Oklahoma? Yeah, I'm from Oklahoma City originally. I was born in Oklahoma City. I grew up in Edmond. I went to Edmond Santa Fe High School. I went to college at Oklahoma State University. I'm going back there in 1 week, next weekend for a football game. Where are you, Jabron? Jaral, where are you at? Let me know where you are in Oklahoma. Jabral says, planning to visit Dallas next week, but unfortunately got referred to the court by the Houston Asylum office. Let me know, please, how I can meet and set up my schedule hearing things with you. I'm sorry to hear that, Jabron. I'm sorry to hear that you didn't win at the Asylum office. Listen, here's a question. If you got referred by the Asylum office, meaning you got a negative decision, they said, nope, you don't qualify for asylum, are you necessarily going to lose your case in immigration court? No. Listen, here's the thing. I've got good news. Approval rates have actually been higher in the immigration courts for the last few years than they have at the asylum offices. It used to be the opposite, but now you got a better chance at immigration court. So take heart. Listen, the fact that you lost your case at the asylum office or you didn't win does not necessarily mean all hope is gone and that you're going to lose. Judges tend to be, they're more sophisticated. They're more likely to give you a little bit better of give your case a more serious look, and like really consider it thoughtfully and seriously in the arguments that your lawyer is making. So yeah, it's not the end of the world. There's still hope. All right. Jabron, how do you reach out to us? So we do not do in-person consultations. It's all video conference or telephone. To schedule it, you go to the website or the URL, winasylum.com. That's WINASYLUM.com. Winasylum.com. That's how you schedule a consultation with one of our asylum professionals. We want to talk with you and see what's going on and tell you whether we think we can help you. And if so, tell you exactly how we're going to do it, how we're going to help you increase your chances for asylum success so you can secure your future in America through asylum. Jabron, go do that right now. Go to winasylum.com right now. All right. I'm going to check when I get off of this live, off of this show. I'm going to check, and I want to see you on our calendar for this week. Okay. We still have some spots open for this week, some availability. So take advantage of it now. All right. Nice. All right. Does the military joining letter help an immigration court? Says Boz on TikTok. What do you mean, Boz? Like that you are in a foreign military, or what do you mean? Joining what military? What letter? All right. What if you tried to enter Canada and you get deported to the U.S.? Are you going to get a penalty? So good question. The question is, what happens if you try to enter Canada? The question is this: what happens if you go from the United States up to Canada and you try to get asylum there, but you get deported, you get sent back to the United States? Can you still get asylum in the United States? And the answer is, yeah, you can still apply and you can still win. There's no kind of like bar that applies. There's no negative factors that come into play just because you had gone into Canada and got sent back to the United States. So yeah, the good news is it doesn't necessarily keep you from winning your case in the United States. So yeah, we should talk about it. Listen, it's a little bit tricky when these cases where people are crossing the border with Canada. There's some special rules that apply. So we should talk about that. But the mere fact that you got sent from Canada back here will not keep you from getting asylum. So that's the good news. All right. All right. What else? Let's go back over to YouTube. Wow. All right. So Emil says, if the officers ask me if I was beaten, I'll say no, because I was not subjected to physical violence. I faced the threat of being arrested and killed in prison. Yeah. So listen, here's the question. What if the asylum officer asks you, hey, have you ever been physically harmed? Have you ever been like beaten or attacked? And you have not, but you're afraid, you have legitimate reasons of being afraid of being harmed in the future, like being imprisoned and harmed in prison. What should you say? Well, you should just say, no, I've never been physically harmed. Okay. The good news is that even though asylum officers are in very many ways, in my opinion, often not that good at their jobs, they definitely will ask you about your reasons for fearing being harmed in the future. They always start with past harm. They always start with, have you ever been physically harmed? And if you say no, they're going to say, okay, well, has anything happened that makes you afraid of being harmed in the future? And that's where you just say, yeah, and you explain it. And then they'll really dig into your case about, what are the reasons that you fear being harmed? Is it realistic? Is it likely going to happen? And if so, why? What's going to motivate it? So you'll be okay. The fact that you haven't been harmed in the past will not keep you from winning asylum. It's okay. You can win asylum without any past harm. Okay. All right. Guys on TikTok, listen, if you want all my best stuff, like, long, detailed, very detailed trainings about how to win asylum in the United States, then what you really need to do is you need to go over to YouTube. Go to YouTube and search political asylum lawyers. That's where I've got all my best stuff. I've got some super detailed trainings. If you go to the playlist tab, you're going to see some really detailed trainings where I'm helping you with all kinds of stuff that you need to know to give yourself the best possible chance of winning your asylum case. Okay. Wow. Okay. Adnan Leela says, 24 days asylum application in the New York office and an interview appointment in late September with a visa validity of late December if a denial follows. Wait, are you in immigration court, you saying, Adnan? You've got two different questions here. You said, I submitted my case to immigration court and kept waiting. Will I get a work permit? From what date does 150 days begin? All right. The question, I'm going to address what I think is your question. The question is, when you apply for asylum and you've got to wait for 150 days before you can submit your work permit application, right? When do those 150 days start? Like, what is the thing that triggers that clock, that EAD or employment authorization document clock to start counting those 150 days? Well, it's formal acceptance by the government of your application. So it's the date on which they receive your application and determine that it meets the requirements for like an application such that it's not rejected. Now, if you apply online with USCIS, it's the day that you like hit submit, as long as they don't reject it. If you apply with the immigration court, it's the day that they received it in the mail, in the mailing room, or if you apply on paper with USCIS, it's the day they receive it in the mailing room, as long as they go on to approve it as an application and put it into the system, which might be weeks later, or months later, or even like a year later, but they'll use the date that it landed in the mailing room. That's when the clock starts. Okay. Hope that helps. All right, let's go to TikTok. Okay. All right. Alfredo says, it's been almost 2 years since I applied for asylum, but no interview yet. Is there any reason for that? The question is, why is it taking so long to get your asylum interview? If you've been waiting, let's say a couple of years after applying, you still haven't gotten the interview, and what can you do about it? So why? First, it's just USCIS policy. I mean, there's a huge backlog, right? There's a lot of asylum applicants. There's not enough resources to get to them all. There's not that many asylum officers, all right? And they have to prioritize doing what are called credible fear interviews, another kind of interview with people that come to the border without a visa seeking asylum, all right? So that's why. What can you do about it? At 2 years, honestly, the only real hope of getting your interview soon is if you have an urgent humanitarian reason, like if you have some kind of health issue or some kind of real emergency that would be made a little bit better by getting your interview soon, that can be a reason to get it. Once you hit the 3-year mark, you'll be in probably a pretty good position to sue the government in a mandamus lawsuit to force them to give you your interview. But I'd say you got to wait till you hit that 3-year mark for that to have a real chance for success. Okay. Listen, we have seen, I want you to know though, we have seen some people that have applied very recently get their interview very quickly, like get it scheduled for within the next couple months. I'm a little bit hopeful that this is going to be a new normal for people that are applying right now and going forward. Why is this happening? Well, because the reason there's a big backlog and the reason that most cases don't get interviewed soon is because the asylum office has to prioritize doing credible fear interviews. These are interviews with people that came to the U.S. southern border without a visa. There's an internal rule that says, hey, asylum office, you got to throw all your asylum officers at those. Like instead of doing normal asylum interviews, it pulls asylum officers to do credible phone interviews all day with people at the border. But due to there's two different things the Biden administration has done in the last 6 months or so to try to basically ban people from coming to the border from seeking asylum. And it is having an effect. Fewer people are coming to the border. So because there's fewer people at the border, there's fewer credible fear interviews, which frees up asylum officers to do what's supposed to be their core job of doing asylum interviews. This means that there's a chance that they will be able to do the interviews for people who are applying, to do them pretty much right away within 1 to 3 months of application. That's the goal. USCIS's policy is to try to do asylum interviews as soon as possible within those 2 or 3 months after application. It's just that in the past, they haven't been able to meet that objective because they get pulled away to do the credible fear interviews. But now there's fewer credible fear interviews, so they might be getting back on track and having new applicants, people that are applying now, possibly getting their interview very quickly. I am kind of hopeful for that. Okay. Listen, if you want to talk with us about your case and see if we might be able to help you, I want you to go to winasylum.com. I want you to schedule a consultation, right? What we call an asylum strategy session with one of our asylum professionals. We're going to analyze your situation, tell you what's going on, and see what's going on, and tell you whether we think we can help you. All right. It's free actually right now. In this moment, it's free. We used to charge a little under $200 for this consultation, but right now it's free. So I don't know if this is going to last forever. Take advantage of this time when it is free and go over to winasylum.com to schedule your asylum strategy session now with one of our asylum professionals. All right. Do that now. Go right now. Schedule it right now. All right. Okay. Valdetta says, my online case changed with USCIS from decision is pending to application is pending. Any reason, any suggestions or reasons why? So the question is, why would your online USCIS case status change from decision pending to application is pending? That doesn't make sense, right? That's like going backwards. Saying decision pending means like, oh, the application was pending, you did the interview, and now they're making a decision. To go from decision pending to application pending is like going backwards. What's up with that? Nothing. Listen, this case status thing is broken. It makes no sense. It doesn't work. They make mistakes like this all the time. It's meaningless. Like we do not know anything about your case based on what this thing says. I mean, the good news is that it doesn't mean there's something wrong with your case. It doesn't mean it's a bad sign or something negative. So that's the good news for you, okay? Is it's not bad. It's random, it's broken. You can't draw any meaning from it, unfortunately, okay? That's how that works. All right? That's how that works. Let us go to YouTube, shall we? All right. Okay. We've got this question. How long does it take to get a FOIA from USCIS? Good question. I'm going to answer that, but starts like this. Should we tell them that we're currently filing a mandamus? Tell who? Tell the asylum office? I'll address that too in a second. Let's go to this FOIA question first. All right. So the question is, how long does it take to get the results from a Freedom of Information Act request with USCIS? We're talking here about a FOIA, F-O-I-A. That stands for Freedom of Information Act. This is a law that says that you can get a copy of your immigration file from USCIS, and to do that, you do the law is called Freedom of Information Act that allows you to get it. And so you make this request. You can do it online. It's pretty easy and quick. It's not hard to do. And from the time that you do it, it usually takes like 3 to 6 weeks to get it back, I would say. 3 to 6 weeks. All right. So it's actually pretty quick. That's good news, right? It's pretty quick. That's actually the first thing that we do with all of our clients. If someone has already applied for asylum and then they hire us, we always do a Freedom of Information Act request because we want to see exactly what documents you've sent to the government. And we want to see what documents the government has sent you and anything else they've done regarding your immigration situation. We need to know about that stuff. So with our new clients that have already applied, we always do a Freedom of Information Act request. Okay. All right. So starts like this said, should we tell them that we're currently filing a mandamus lawsuit? So the question is, let's say you're suing the government in a mandamus lawsuit to force USCIS to give you your long delayed, long stalled asylum interview. Should you tell the asylum office? Because remember, this is when you sue. You probably are suing the asylum office and the asylum office director. We do that, but we sue multiple people, right? But should you also tell the asylum office? Well, technically, as part of the lawsuit, you do have to inform the people that you're suing. You send a copy of the lawsuit and a copy of some documents that the court creates. Right after you file, you have to send this copy to everyone that you're suing, and you're probably suing the asylum office and the asylum office director and the director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. At least we sue them, all those people. And so you have to send a copy of the lawsuit to them. So yeah, USCIS is going to find out. and they're going to work with the attorney for the government who works for the department. That actually works for the Department of Justice, and sort of figure out what their strategy is, what they want to do, whether they want to fight the case to the end or instead just say, we don't want to fight this one. And that's usually how these end, is they call me and say, Brian, we don't want to fight this one. So if your client will agree to drop the lawsuit, we'll give them the interview and the decision really soon. Okay. Like quickly, and they actually usually at that point create the interview notice, which is a letter that says you have been scheduled for an interview on X date. Okay. That's usually when that happens. All right. All right. Let's go. Is it a good, Hamid Abdul says, is it a good idea to dismiss your immigration court case and apply with USCIS? Good question. So the question is this. Let's say you've got a case pending in immigration court that gets dismissed. Should you apply again for asylum with USCIS? Listen, it's tricky. This is something you should definitely talk with an asylum lawyer about. Here's the thing. If you want to win asylum, this is the only way. Because applying with USCIS is because after your asylum case gets dismissed from court, your asylum application, your asylum claim disappears. It's gone. You can't win asylum. Maybe you have some other route to get status, like marriage to a U.S. citizen. But if you don't, and you want to keep pursuing your asylum claim, your only option is to apply again with USCIS. What happens next depends on whether you previously had an asylum interview with USCIS or not. If you did have an asylum interview with USCIS already and they made a negative decision, they sent your case to court, your case gets dismissed from court, and then you apply again with USCIS, USCIS is going to accept your application, but they're not going to give you another interview. Instead, they're going to pass it back to the court and you're going to be in deportation proceedings again. That might make sense. You might want that, but it's something you really need to talk about with an asylum lawyer, depending on how strong your case is, where your case is, what your goals are in immigration, what your other options might be. Like, this is a tricky thing and it's super important. Talk with an asylum lawyer. Okay? Do that. Right. Nice. Thank you very much for your answer, says Emil Aliyev. You're welcome. Suckdev says, if someone experienced trauma and had a breakdown in court and the judge was not empathetic towards them and they were like, let's break in a moody way, what does that say about the judge? You mean they continued it? Like they said, let's take a pause and they scheduled it for another day? Like they scheduled a new hearing or a second hearing? I mean, if they were not empathetic, that's not good. It's a lot of them are anti-immigrant and they're just looking for excuses to deny people, but not all of them are like that. Some of them are objective and fair. You can't really, you can't really draw any concrete conclusions from that. The fact that they didn't seem empathetic doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get denied. I mean, I'm sorry if that was you or someone you love. I'm sorry that was the case. That must have been very hard for you to talk about something traumatic and then to have the judge be kind of a jerk about it. That's tough. I'm really sorry you had to go through that. Okay. All right. So Ong Ning says, I'm an asylum seeker from Burma, waiting 15 months already. There's from a civil war-torn country, and I myself am a genocide survivor. Is there any possibility for a quick interview appointment? Listen, I'm really sorry to hear about everything that has happened and is still happening in your country. That's really tough. The question is, if you've been waiting for an asylum interview with USCIS for a long time, like over a year, and things are really bad in your country, like it's clear that it's a very, very dangerous place, can that help you to get your asylum interview sooner, to get it scheduled? And the answer is no. That fact by itself won't help you. If you have a spouse or children there who you'll be eligible to bring to the United States once you win asylum, if they're in danger in your home country, they're still there and they're in danger, that can be an excuse or a reason to get your interview expedited under what are called urgent humanitarian grounds. But other than that, no, the fact that things are bad in your country is not going to really help you. If you get to like the 3-year mark of waiting, you should sue the government, in my opinion, to force them to give you your asylum interview. It's called a Mandamus lawsuit. It's a beautiful thing. Our clients are loving it because it works. Oh yeah. So yeah, speaking of Mandamus, why I asked my immigration lawyer about the Mandamus lawsuit. He said he doesn't know how to do it. Yeah. Let's address this as a question. Yeah. So the question is, why do a lot of immigration lawyers refuse to bring Mandamus lawsuits? So listen, we're talking here about a lawsuit where you're suing the federal government, asking a federal judge to tell the asylum office that they have to do their job and give you your interview. If you've been waiting for your interview for years with USCIS, you can sue the government to force your interview and your decision. But here's the thing. A lot of immigration lawyers won't do this. You'll ask them and they'll be like, I don't take those. I don't do that. Why? Because it's complicated. It deals with a federal court. It's very different than dealing with the immigration courts or with USCIS. Federal court stuff is seen as just kind of more complicated, more sophisticated. Most immigration lawyers don't have any experience in federal court practice in dealing with federal courts. So most of them are like, that sounds scary. I don't want it. We don't do that. I don't want that. We love it. Our clients love it. That's the most important thing, is our clients absolutely love it because it works. So listen, if you've been waiting for years for your asylum interview, I want you to go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. That's where you can schedule an asylum strategy session with us. We can talk about suing the government. We'll talk through it with you in detail about how it works, and make sure that we think it's a good fit for you to help you secure your future in America through asylum. Go to winasylum.com. winasylum.com, so we can talk about this in detail, okay? Jeff Lawson says, I have an interview coming up. Do I have to get an interpreter or not? The question is, do you have to take your own interpreter with you to your USCIS asylum interview? Yes. If you want to do your interview in a language other than English, then yeah, you do need to take an interpreter with you. Now, you might have heard from like friends or people in your community like, oh no, you don't have to. They'll give you one. Well, they did during COVID, and then for a couple of years, a few years actually, after the worst of COVID, they kept the policy up of, you can't bring one. We'll just provide you one by telephone. But that's changed. Recently, USCIS went back and said, nope. Now you do need to bring an interpreter. Okay, so yeah, you do need one. Immigration court is different. Immigration court, you can't take your own interpreter. They will provide you one. But at asylum office with USCIS right now, yeah, you do have to take your own interpreter. Okay. All right. Jeff, you have an asylum interview coming up. I see that you're on YouTube. Go to my playlist. Go to Political Asylum Lawyers channel playlists and look for, there's a playlist called Asylum Interviews, Trainings. And you're going to find some super detailed trainings in there all about the asylum interview, about what exactly is going to happen, like what to expect, why they're asking you what they're asking you, how you should answer questions. I'm not telling you what to say. You got to tell the truth, but I'm telling you like the manner, the way in which you should think about addressing questions. Okay. So go to listen, if you're on TikTok, go to Political Asylum Lawyers, go to YouTube, search for Political Asylum Lawyers, and go to my YouTube channel. And that's where you're going to find all kinds of trainings. Okay. So Bella says, can I apply for asylum after coming with a tourist visa to the United States? The question is, if you come to the United States on a tourist visa, are you eligible to apply for asylum? Yes, you are. Absolutely. The fact that you came on a visa doesn't mean that you can't get asylum, doesn't mean you can't apply. The fact that you came on a tourist visa does not mean that you can't get asylum or that you can't apply. You can definitely apply for and get asylum after entering the country on a tourist visa, a B2 visa. All right. Yeah. What other questions do you have about asylum in the United States? All right. Let's go back to TikTok. No, let's go to, YouTube. Let's go to YouTube. Kevin Young says, after I crossed the southern border without a visa in 2022, USCIS gave me parole. In my immigration system, it says your next step is the interview. Does this mean my case is with USCIS? So listen. So Kevin, let's do it like this. The question is this. let's say you came to the United States border without a visa, but you got what's called parole. You were paroled into the country, and then you apply for asylum, and you go to the USCIS website, and it says, okay, the next step in your case is an asylum interview. Does that mean that your case is pending with USCIS and not the immigration court? Well, yeah, pretty sure that it does. Because listen, here's how it works. If you got paroled, then I should say that sometimes a lot of people think they got paroled in, but they didn't really get paroled in. They just got released from detention. Okay. But listen, if you actually got this kind of parole that gives you like permission to be here, then you apply for asylum, then yes, your application should be filed with USCIS, and they should take it and schedule it or an interview eventually. That means that sounds like that's probably, yes, what happened in your case, such that, your case probably is, it sounds like, indeed, with USCIS, and that's where you'll have your asylum interview. Okay? All right. Wow. All right, so this is an interesting question. Abdul says, my lawyer advised me to dismiss my case from immigration court and apply with USCIS because my immigration court date will be in 2027. I've been waiting almost 12 years. Can you give me advice? So remember, Abdul, I said a second ago that if you've already had an asylum interview with USCIS, like you came on a visa and you applied for asylum, you had an interview with USCIS, and they said, nope, no asylum. They sent you to immigration court. And then it gets dismissed, and then you apply with USCIS, they're not going to give you another interview. They're going to send you back to court, in which case it's probably going to take longer than 2027. You're going to be sort of at the back of the line. You're going to be in the queue again at the back of the line, and you probably will have your immigration court hearing in 2028 or 2029. But if you did not ever have the interview with USCIS, then you'll be in the USCIS process. And we don't know how long that will take. We don't know if you'll get your interview quickly or if it's going to take a long time, including possibly even years to get your interview with USCIS. We don't know. But this is a really interesting question that this raises. So the question is this. What if you've been waiting for many years to have your immigration case considered, your asylum claim heard by an immigration judge and immigration court, but then your case gets dismissed and then you apply with USCIS? Can you sue the government in a mandamus lawsuit? Because you've been waiting for years. This is tricky because, listen, when you're suing USCIS, what you're saying is, USCIS, you haven't done your job. You're supposed to give me my interview in a reasonable time, and it's been many years or several years. That's not reasonable, so I can sue you. But in this case, where your case was dismissed from immigration court after waiting for, in this person's example, 12 years, which is ridiculous. I'm so sorry. Then they apply with USCIS. If you sue USCIS, they might say, hey, that's not us. That's a different agency. That's the Department of Justice that you waited on for 12 years. You applied with us, USCIS, 3 months ago. So that's not an unreasonable delay. I don't know. Honestly, I don't think there's been any courts that have ruled on this, or at least not any federal courts of appeals, and the Board of Immigration. Yeah, no federal courts of appeals have ruled on this question. Could you have success with a mandamus lawsuit under this scenario? Maybe. I don't know. If you want to hire us to try, I would love to do a test case. I really don't know. I don't know if it's going to work or not. It might. We can make some pretty sound, legitimate, reasonable, straight-faced legal arguments about why it should. But it would be an interesting sort of test case. All right. I want to talk about that. Go to winasylum.com. Okay. Yeah. You said, okay. Abdul says, no, I've not had any interviews with USCIS. Like ever. Okay. Then you're in this position where if you want asylum, yeah, you need to apply with USCIS. Can you do a mandamus lawsuit and have success in getting them scheduled quickly? I don't know in this scenario. Normally, if you originally applied with USCIS and then you're waiting for years for USCIS to give you your interview, then yes, that's mandamus. We do that every day, twice on Fridays. But in your case, Abdul, it's a little bit different. I don't know, but I would love to talk with you about it. If you want to give it a try, we're here for that. All right. We are here for that. Is it a good thing to have your individual court by WebEx on the internet? That is a very good question. So, question is this. Is it good that your asylum hearing, your individual hearing, your hearing on the merits, in immigration court has been scheduled to be by WebEx, in other words, by video conference, instead of in person? I think so. I prefer it for sure. Listen, when this first started happening, when immigration judges some of them began dictating, okay, you don't have an option, your hearing is going to be by video conference. At first I was like, oh, I don't think it's going to be as good. It'll be better to have it in person. I changed my mind. Me and the lawyers on my staff, we changed our minds. We came to believe that our clients felt better. They just feel more comfortable in the comfort of their own home than in the sort of intimidating surroundings of an immigration court. And that's how we believe now. In fact, we prefer it. Yeah, we think it's better to have your individual hearing in immigration court done by video conference than in person. So that's good. And listen, you can ask. We often do ask the judge to make it by video conference. If it's scheduled to be in person, you can do a motion to have it done by video conference instead. And sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no, but it doesn't hurt you to ask. Even getting denied, it's not going to hurt your case. It's not going to make them mad or anything. So if you agree that, hey, yeah, doing it from the comfort of my own home sounds pretty good, then there's no harm in doing the motion to ask the judge to make it by video conference if it's not already scheduled to be by video conference. Okay. So that is that. All right. I was in person in master hearing, but now it's going to be in WebEx for your individual hearing. No, that's cool. That's good. All right. After how many days on the clock can you apply for a work permit? 150 or 180 days? The question is, how many days do you have to wait to apply for your work permit based on your pending asylum case after having applied for asylum? In other words, how long does your case have to be pending? And here are the two options. Option A is 150 days. Option B is 180 days. Both of these numbers get thrown around, and even a lot of immigration lawyers mess this up. I see this all the time, actually. The answer is 150 days. You can apply at 150 days. The government can't actually approve your application and create your work permit card until you reach the 180-day mark. But you apply and you sort of get in the line, get in the queue at 150 days. And then usually shortly after that 180 days, basically after about a month after you apply, usually they're pretty quick about approving it and sending you your work permit in the mail. So the answer is you can apply for a work permit 150 days after the government accepts your asylum application. All right. And you should apply online. You should apply online for your work permit with USCIS, not by physical mail. Okay. You're welcome, Kevin. We should talk. Listen, if you want to, see if we might be able to help you, go to winasylum.com. That's WINASYLUM.com. That's where you can schedule an asylum strategy session with one of our asylum professionals. We want to talk with you, see what's going on, and tell you whether we think we can help you, whether we can help you to secure your future in America through asylum. That's what we do every day. We love doing it all day, every day. It's what we do. So listen, go to winasylum.com, or if you want to call us, you can call that number 713-909-0401. Again, it's 713-909-0401. All right. Interesting. Abdul says, I have a U.S. refugee P2 case now in removal proceedings with the immigration court. Will my P2 case positively affect my asylum case? Good question. So I think that they're not formally. There's you don't get some kind of formal preference or some kind of bump or positive mark on your case because of this. But informally, I would definitely make sure the judge knows about it. There's a chance it could help influence the judge a little bit. So yeah, you should. Okay. You should make sure they know. I mean, I would put that in the evidence. Okay. Axel Sanushi says, oh no, wait. Sorry, before we get to Axel, Abdullah, you said, sir, a couple times I tried to schedule an appointment, but I couldn't. You mean with us? Why? What happened? I want to know if we've got a problem in our system. Listen, if you can't do it online at winasylum.com, Call us, okay? The number is 713-909-0401. Again, the number is 713-909-0401. Call us, Abdul, if you can't get it to work for some reason. I'll go check after this and see if there's a glitch, but it should work at winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. Listen, the next question was, I applied for asylum like 5 years ago. I haven't got the interview yet. I want to go to Europe for vacation with my fiance. What can I do? Question is, if you applied for asylum several years ago and you are waiting for your interview still and you want to go take a vacation with your spouse, your fiance, a loved one, can you do that? So listen, a couple things. You can apply for what's called an advanced parole document, okay? There's no risk in applying for this. There's a pretty good chance you'll get it. It's just that it takes a long time. All right. It takes a very long time, usually over a year, for the government to approve it, to actually even consider your application. I think the best thing to do in this situation is sue the government to force them to give you your asylum interview. There's a good chance, if you've been waiting like 5 years, there's a good chance that if you sue that you can get your asylum interview very quickly. Pretty decent chance that you can get it within the next 2 to 4 months. And get a decision within weeks of that. And then you can get the refugee travel document, which is better than advanced parole. It serves basically like a passport, and you can come and go and come and go. You don't have to worry about restrictions that sometimes come with an advanced parole document. So I think you should sue the government and force them to give you your interview and your decision. All right, that's it, guys. Have a good evening. Thank you for being with me. I'm Brian Manning. It's an honor to serve you in your asylum journey.